A single dad's heroic gesture saves Christmas. The headline blinked across the town's morning news, etched forever into the memory of Elmridge. It wasn't just a story. It was a miracle, born from fire and frost. The night was supposed to be calm, a hush of snow settling over the streets just 2 days before Christmas. But calm shattered into chaos when thick smoke curled into the sky above the town's only homeless shelter. Flames licked the night air. Screams echoed from within. Ben stood outside, breath misting in the cold, his boots crunching in the snow. Just moments earlier, he had dropped off an extra blanket, a quiet act, unnoticed, like most of his days. Then he heard it, a child's scream, muffled behind the roar of fire. Without a second thought, without a single word, he ran in. Inside was smoke, darkness, fear. He didn't stop to measure the risk. He only knew someone needed saving, and just like that, everything changed. But how did it come to this? What kind of man steps into fire, knowing his own daughter is waiting for him at home? Let's go back, before the fire, before the headline, before anyone called him a hero. Ben moved through life like winter wind, quiet, unnoticed, but always present. At 34, he carried more weight than most men twice his age, not in years, but in sacrifice. A widower since Emma was 3, he wore grief like a worn jacket, never removed, just patched over with duty. His hands, rough from dishwashing at the diner and loading packages at the depot, were the same hands that braided Emma's hair each morning before school. Never said no to overtime, yet never missed a school recital. He couldn't afford brand new toys, but he gave Emma something else: time, stories, snowmen built by hand. On December nights, after she slept, he hunched over a flickering lamp, soldering wires and stitching teddy bear arms from the town's donation box. He gave away what little magic he could make, even if it meant Emma never saw the best of it. She never noticed. But he always did. Elmridge shimmered under a fresh layer of snow. Every lamppost wrapped in garland, every storefront glowing with fairy lights and holiday cheer. Carols played from hidden speakers, and passers-by clutched warm drinks with mittened hands. But beyond the charm, past the painted windows and wreath-covered doors, some homes sat in silence. Ben's house was one of them. The heater coughed more than it warmed. The tree was paper-thin, strung with handmade ornaments and hope. Yet inside, Emma danced in fuzzy socks, certain Santa hadn't forgotten her. She believed, and Ben tried to believe too. At the warehouse, laughter echoed louder than it should have. A group of coworkers leaned by the break room coffee machine, trading jokes wrapped in cruelty. Some parents just let their kids believe in Santa because they can't admit they're too broke to buy gifts. One said, chuckling, "Imagine asking Santa for socks." Ben stood nearby, silent, his fingers tightening around a chipped mug. He didn't flinch, didn't speak, but the words cut anyway. Later, that week, at school pickup, he found Emma quieter than usual. She clutched her backpack to her chest. "Some girls laughed at me," she whispered as they walked home. "They said Santa doesn't give gifts to kids who say whatever's easiest." Ben forced a smile, blinking back the sting in his eyes. "That's just because they don't understand how kind you are," he said. But the shame had already nestled inside him. At night, while Emma slept, Ben bundled up and walked to the shelter. He changed light bulbs, fixed flickering heaters, strung dollar store tinsel across bare walls. He made the space warm, even if his own home stayed cold. He gave away joy like it grew in his hands, even as he longed to hold just a little back for his own daughter. Christmas Eve morning arrived, draped in quiet snow. Emma tiptoed across the living room, her breath visible in the cold. Ben watched from the hallway as she gently placed her only doll, faded, stitched at the shoulder, beneath the tree for another kid who doesn't have one, she said softly, her voice full of hope. Ben's throat tightened. He turned away, walking into the kitchen where the silence finally cracked. He leaned against the counter, burying his face in his hands. The cupboards were nearly bare. The fridge hummed with emptiness. No turkey, no lights, no wrapped box to give her. "I've failed her," he whispered, the words tasting like rust and regret. His shoulders shook as he cried into the quiet. Letting go of every ounce of pride he had left. Shelter was quiet when Ben arrived. The snow had stopped falling, and the world outside felt frozen in reverence. He hadn't planned to come. Emma was asleep, curled beneath extra blankets, but something tugged at him. The old boiler had rattled the night before. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything stepped inside and walked the dim hallway to the back. The boiler hissed. Then, without warning, a deep groan echoed through the pipes, followed by an eruption of heat, noise, and light. The explosion shook the floor. Flames spilled up the walls. Screams tore through the air. Ben stumbled outside, coughing, his coat singed. People poured out, some dragging children, others in shock. But someone was missing. A cry, a child's cry, pierced the call. Osmond didn't hesitate. He ran back in, past the flames, past the fear. Smoke wrapped around him, but he kept going. One child, then another, a woman, gasping for air. He carried them out, collapsing into the snow just as sirens wailed in the distance. Paramedics rushed in. A local reporter captured the moment, his body curled around the boy he'd saved that night. The headline began to spread. If you believe real heroes, don't ask for thanks. Share this. News of Ben's bravery spread faster than the fire ever had. By morning, the town that once looked past him now couldn't look away. Donations flooded in, some small, some generous, all heartfelt. A local business owner stepped forward to pay off Ben's mortgage in full. A man who risks everything shouldn't worry about a roof over his head. He said same co-workers who once scoffed fell silent. At school, the principal called Emma in, this time to apologize. Eyes wet, voice shaking, she admitted she had laughed when Emma wished for whatever's easiest. But your daddy, he gave everything, she said, kneeling to Emma's height. Ben, bandaged and sore, stood outside the hospital days later. Reporters asked how it felt to be called a hero. Looked down, then up at the falling snow. I just did what any dad would do, he said simply, but the town knew better. They had seen what he risked, and on that Christmas, they chose to honor Itima's. Eyes fluttered open to a soft glow in the living room. She padded out in her pajamas and stopped. The floor beneath the tree was filled with wrapped presents, bright paper glinting in the morning light. Her mouth fell open in wonderment. It was the smallest gift that caught her heart, a wooden snowflake, hand-carved, slightly blackened at the edges. On the back, in Ben's careful handwriting, "You're my miracle." She clutched it to her chest, tears spilling over. Then she ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. I don't need anything else, she whispered that evening, as stars blinked above the snow-covered rooftops. Hammers echoed softly from the heart of Elmridge. Volunteers, neighbors, strangers, even former skeptics, worked side by side to rebuild the shelter Ben had once saved. It rose not just from ashes, but from gratitude. A few days later, Ben was offered a full-time position managing the center. For once, he didn't have to say yes out of need. He chose it out of purpose. When a reporter asked Emma what Christmas meant to her now, she smiled and said, "My daddy saved Christmas. Sometimes, the people with the least give the most." Would you have gone into that fire? Tell us below. Wand if this story moved you. Share it to remind the world, heroes don't need capes. Sometimes, they just need love.